Okay, so let's think about the level beach house. It has kind of a classic kind of foundation and structural system. It's actually kind of a very interesting one because it's very sort of unusual. It's this whole notion of we were really in love with concrete and things we could do with concrete. So really, I think whoever the group is that's modeling this probably has figured out it's really the series of fins. It's these big concrete fins that have sort of a custom shape to them. Okay, and then just have holes cut out in different areas. And then where the fins hit the ground, sort of right over here, and kind of in this area over here, we have just a strip foundation underneath those. So let me even zoom in a little bit further and see if we can sort of see what the size is. We know that the grid is 4 by 4. It looks like 24 square feet, 12 square feet. Not sure what the numbers are there. If I'm looking at them, this is probably 3 by 4. This looks like it's 2 by 12. And I'm just guessing that based on the grid lines and kind of the approximate dimensions of what we're seeing there. So those are probably just notations someone used when they were starting to take off the concrete. Okay, then for those fin walls, let's even think about them. It's got this 4-foot grid. So it looks like that's about 2, 4, 4, maybe 1. So maybe 11 feet on these fins. And maybe about 2 feet wide by 1 foot wide on that side. And I'm just kind of guessing based on the geometry there. But let's go ahead and do some stuff, and the principle will be the same regardless. Okay, so I'm going to start with a new blank model here. And what I'm going to start by doing is actually putting down some grids, because those are going to be useful to us. So I'll go to the Home tab and grab the Grid tool. And I can start actually laying down grids. And let me kind of think about the way they did this. They went from top to bottom. Don't really see the left to right. Oh, it's down there somewhere. A, B, C, D. Okay, great. So what we could do is, for example, if I start at the top and draw a grid across, you'll see that first grid comes in as grid number 1. I can draw a second grid, put it 4 feet away. Currently it's 12 feet away, which is not very good, so I can choose it and put a new dimension in there. And I can keep on adding these grids one at a time. But let me kind of show you a quicker way, just so you know about it. And that is if you choose the Grid tool, and we pick a grid, we can put in an offset here, and then just choose an existing grid and add them that way. Actually, that one went the wrong way, so let me undo that. What I have to do is hover just slightly below. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's a little blue line there, which is indicating where it's going to be placed. Okay, and then in the other direction, let me zoom on out. Let me kind of do A, B, C. So this time I'll draw the first one. Notice it comes in as 11, because that would be the next one in the series. But if you choose it and choose the name, I can make it A. So what will happen is the next one that gets placed will follow the same naming convention and just kind of move forward. So if I choose the Grid tool again in the pick. I'll again choose the 4 feet. And I'll put in B, C. Got D in the wrong direction. Let me pop that out by undoing.
We have a question.
Okay. Certainly. There certainly is. So you're quite right to think about using the array tool. If you choose one, and I go to array right here, I'm going to move to the second one. I can leave them grouped and associated. So I'll make it the second one 4 feet away. It says 2. Let's find where it is in the, there it is, on the drawing area. So if I want to put like another 10 in there, you can really quickly generate an entire series of them. Is that the idea?
Okay. Yeah, we're good now.
Any more? Okay, so let's go back then and let's talk about these fins. What I would actually suggest is let's go ahead and add the fins first, and then we'll put the foundation underneath them. So if I go looking at this fin wall, I think they're about 1 foot thick, something like that. I'm guesstimating, and it may be about 11 feet long and 1 foot on the other. Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm going to choose some wall. Go to the Home tab. Choose the Wall tool. Okay. Now, I can give them an unconnected height, or I can put them up to level 2 or 3. Or we can stretch them up later if we want to. For right now, let me just go ahead and put them up to level 2. No, I'll make it higher, just so that they're kind of be tall enough so that we can actually cut some holes in them. Okay, so level 1 going up 30 feet. I could make them this generic 8-inch wall. I could say that they're 12-inch foundation walls out of concrete. Or I could just make a separate wall and call it concrete fins. Actually, let me choose that one because it'll be really similar. And I'm going to dupe it. I'm going to call it a fin wall. 12 inches of concrete. Okay, and the structure type is 1 foot thick of cast in place concrete. Now before I place it, let me go ahead and take a look at this. Because I chose a foundation wall, you'll notice it's kind of going down into the ground, which is the typical assumption. So I'm going to go up to level 2, or even up to unconnected again, and start it at 0. Okay, there's a little bit of adjustment because I chose a foundation wall type. Now for placing the walls, what I can do is, wherever I know it wants to be, I'm going to place my center line of the wall. I can make that thing, what I'll probably do is make it the entire distance, okay, of the wall, and then I'm going to cut some holes in it. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So I got 2 holes on top of each other. I can adjust that length if I need to. Let's just take a look at that in 3D and see if we can get a sense of it. It is this big old wall. It's going up 30 feet tall right now. And what we want to have happen is, kind of really depends on how things are ultimately built. But I know the fin wall has some openings down here, opening for the garage over there. It's got some openings in it. So let's talk about that. We could go ahead and model as a series of posts and beams. But for this one, I think of it actually really as being more of a big concrete fin. So how we could model that is, let me just shift it to more of an elevation view. I can choose that wall, and I could go ahead and place holes in the wall. For example, if I choose the wall, under Modify, let me see if I can find it where it went to. Actually, I might have to do it in an elevation view. Let me go to the south elevation. Choose that wall. I'm looking for Modify, but I'm not seeing what I want. That happens sometimes. I'll do it the other way then, which is the way I really ultimately want to get you going. We're going to choose the wall and do something called editing its profile. And here's the deal. If you're going through and creating a wall, and as opposed to putting door and windows opening in it, or door and window openings in it, if you know it just really has a very custom shape, and you just want to carve away the wall material, what you can do is edit the profile. And when you edit the profile, you'll notice we're sort of in pink line mode. What I can do is start just drawing the shape of the openings. Now, that opening right now, you'll notice sort of has a intersection right here and here. So what I'm going to do is split the element, do a little trimming, so I just have a continuous boundary. So kind of the pink line rules apply. Okay, over here, actually if I think about this, then it's got that little door opening over here. Again, I'll do a split and do my trim. What am I doing? I did something funny there. Let me trim that again. There we go. And if I went ahead and finished this up, I'll look back at it in 3D again. We sort of have this funny notion of being able to cut holes in walls. So that's just kind of a good general technique for you. If I was doing this house, I would probably do something like this to create the fins. I'll edit the profile. Maybe I can put in some of those big openings that are up on the second floor level or on the roof level, whatever it is. Just kind of make some openings to cut the fins. Okay, so are we good on the idea of the fins?
Yeah.
Okay, so edit wall profile, kind of make those fins look the way they want to. Now, from a foundation standpoint, it's actually pretty easy what has to go on here. Because what we can do is say structure. But as opposed to looking at a slab foundation, we're going to look at something called a wall foundation. Let's talk about what that looks like. If I go through and choose a wall, that's a little unfortunate. That's actually what we're going to be using for the McCallman house in just a second. So maybe this, what's happening is it's putting that wall foundation under everything. There's this little sort of issue with the blue line for extending. that I can use to try and shrink it up, but I think that may not be the best way to do it. Because what's happening is it's kind of hugging up to the bottom of where that wall ended up. Okay, so scratch that strategy. We'll do something a little bit different. What we're going to do is instead go through and take what's called an isolated foundation. And an isolated foundation, looks like we don't even have any of them just yet. Let's go and load one. And we can pull it out of the library. It's under structural foundations. There's some nice rectangular footings. Okay. We can go ahead and place these underneath things. So if this is my floor plan, I can go ahead and place my isolated foundation. They have sizes over here, and they have a placement plane over here at level 1. I think as I place it, you're not going to see it, and that's more of a visibility graphics thing. Let me just put it out there in the middle there. I think the reason we're not seeing it has to do with the view range right now. Since I'm only going down to level 1, I'm not looking down below level 1. I'm just not seeing that foundation. It could be that, or it could be visibility graphics. Let's take a look at both. Under view range, that's where it is. You can see right there. I need to just lower that. Let me just make it unlimited. Okay, now you can see that thing. So you'll see it's there in 3D. So for level, what I might do is, if I know this thing is supposed to be about 2 feet wide by 12 feet or whatever it is, I could take that slab-o foundation there. Let me dupe that. I'm going to make something that's 24. Actually, let me do it the other. I'll do that the length first. So 12 feet by 24 inches by, we'd have to look at the section and see how thick it is. Probably about 12 inches. You'll see it there. I think there's some other drawings on the other sheet, though, that actually call out the thickness. Then, given that, I would say make it 12 feet. Or width, I'm sorry, make that 2 feet. 12 feet by 12 inches. Something like that. Great. Now, that's just a discrete piece that we can rotate. Into place. And then we can put it into place by moving it. And then really, my geometry, I didn't do a very good job of matching the level house. But I could have one that's kind of this length. Actually make it a little bit longer. I need to make it, like 18 feet or something like that. Duplicate that. Move it on down. Now, this is probably not quite as convenient as doing it as a wall, because it's, we're having to sort of manually adjust the length. The good news is, though, if you look at the basic plan of the level beach house, there's really only 2 sizes you have to worry about. The one under these long fins, and this other one over here, what is that? That was like 3 feet by 4 feet or something like that. So in the same sense, what we do is, over here, dupet type, and we'll make kind of a 36 by 48, or whatever it is. It's 3 feet, no, it's actually 4 feet. by 36. Actually, we should probably stick to all inches. It's kind of messy when we switch between those. Oops. I changed that one. Let me go ahead and put it back to that type. Okay, and what I'll do is actually just place another one. So again, structure, isolated foundation, choose the size we want, and drop it under this one. Now, in the same sense, you can join these if you want to, although I suspect that they were probably cast as two separate pieces. But if we wanted to join it, we would say join and bring it together. Although it doesn't look very different because you do see the seam right there. Just because there's a kind of an edge there. Let's check it out in section and see how it looks that way. So if I say view, I move the cut line so it's actually right in the middle of that. Hard to tell because the grid's right on. Oh, that's right on top of it. Let me hide that for a second just so we can see. Yeah, it did join up nicely. Okay, so given that you've done this, how I might do this if I was a level house person is, since you have sort of a very regular geometry, you can go ahead and select all these things. Let's see if I got the structural foundations too. Control, click that. Got all that. So now that I have those, I can do the copy or even the array. Since you know, oh, that's interesting. It won't let me do that. I was going to be a little too smart for myself there. I think it's because it's kind of what's considered an uneven selection. And then I can say from here and bring it on down to this grid line. And then go from here and bring it on down to that grid line. I can still go back and customize every individual one. But I think pretty quickly you're going to get something that looks fairly close to what you want. So how's that feeling to you?
I think we got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Beautiful. Okay, final one then for tonight, the final variation is actually, it's not a hard house. It's really just the issue of, it's got a lot of little pieces to it because it's got several different types. And I can go ahead and open your site, or let me go ahead and open one of your sites and then we'll go from there. Because really what I have is, I have some walls that have a strip foundation underneath them. I got some little columns that have sort of isolated footings under them. And sort of more variations on a theme. Now if you're watching, if you're on this house, go ahead and watch out for this issue of, there's some 6-inch footing walls that have a 12, or 6-inch foundation walls that have a 12-inch footing. In the back of the house where it's holding back earth, that's 6 and 12 also. I'm trying to find, it's over here somewhere. It's like an 8-inch wall. It's just a 6-inch in there. There's an 8-inch wall with a 16-inch footing. That's over kind of near the apartment. So kind of watch out for that. They vary a little bit. But most of it looks like it's 6 and 12. And then we have all these little columns that have an isolated footing. And have some beams between them. And so let's talk about how we can do that. let's open up. And let's see what we can find here. I got some Revit topo plans, and then I got some McOmen. Okay, fantastic hilly site. Okay, then is the house kind of up in here, or where is the house? If I was looking at the site, where should I put it? Kind of over on the left side or the right side, or?
It sits on the flat plane in the middle.
So
In the flat plane in the middle?
right in the middle. Yeah.
Kind of right in here?
Yeah.
Then it starts to hang off over there?
The span between the contours
Right there.
Across this way?
Nope. Up more. So where the big gap is in the contour lines, right there.
Oh, that's the big flat spot. Duh. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. Okay, let's talk about this. You have this like 10 by 4 foot grid. Or no, it's 10 by 6.
Is the grid differently for that one? No.
It's 10 by 4. Okay. So if I was looking at this one, the grid lines that go this way, are these the 4 foot grids or the 10 foot grids?
We don't know.
Okay.
Definitely.
We'll just assume, for the sake of this, that those are the 4 foot grids. Doing a bad job of placing grids there. And we'll put some 10 foot grids in the other direction. And I'll make that like A or something like that. And I'll, again, do the offsetting. Or arraying, as was wisely suggested by one of your compatriots there. Okay, and this is just enough to get us started. Not very accurate. Okay, so let's think about this. If I look at, let's kind of think about, well, there's the house or the site way up there. I'm just kind of try moving all that down. Or I can move level 1 up. It's really whatever makes the most sense. Okay. The funny thing about this house is it has a lot of retaining walls. And they step on down as you sort of move down the hillside. So let's kind of show you just real quickly how you can sort of create something like that. I'll go back to level 1, and I choose the wall types. I would probably start by using those retaining walls. And what did they have? We had a retaining wall type in here, 12-inch concrete. Turns out ours is probably closer to like 6 inches or something like that, or 8 inches, depending upon which wall we're placing. So I'm going to make a type 6-inch concrete. Change its structure to also be 6 inches. So far, so good. And then I'm going to go from level 1, okay. Oh, let me leave it about 12 foot deep right now, up to level 1. And that's big. I want it to go deep because what I'm going to do is kind of cut down into the ground. In fact, maybe that can even stick above level 1. It kind of depends on what your foundation detail looks like. No, we'll leave it at level 1. The earth should move down instead. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start placing some walls. I can do it by the wall center lines, if that's what makes sense here. Are the wall center lines on the grids?
I think so.
Yep. That's kind of the way we used to do it. So let me say, oh, come on down. Notice the wall's not showing up. Don't be worried about that. Well, let me fix that beforehand. The problem is since the walls are below the level 1 level, I'll do that same thing where I actually say show them. Show below the level. And that's just because the floor plan for level 1 typically doesn't cut down into the ground like that. Okay, now I can go through and start drawing walls. Whatever it is, I know that house has a very nice, unusual shape, and just kind of make whatever you need. That's a highly simplified version of it. Now, this house, let me zoom out. And think about why they're not even showing up. Are we under the ground? Why, as a matter of fact? Okay, clearly I have my earth and my house are not in very good alignment with each other. Let me move the earth down some. If only it were that easy. I'll move it back up again just so it intersects in an interesting way. Okay, maybe even a hair further. Here's the deal. As we're doing houses like this, where sort of the topography and the foundation walls are a little bit uneven with each other, we often end up having what's called a stepped foundation. Okay? And how a stepped foundation looks is, you don't see it so well in this foundation plan, but if you go to the elevations, you can see it. We end up sort of terracing down, and we basically have the bottom of the concrete follow the footing, or follow the topography down, and we tend to do it in discrete steps. And why do we do that? It's really just because it's much easier to place the concrete that way, as a series of little discrete step segments, as opposed to trying to kind of follow the smooth foundation down. Actually, there you get a pretty good sense of it right there, where he keeps on doing it in segments and jumping up either 1 foot or 2 foot, but he keeps on jumping up a little bit. Okay, so how we would model something like that is, let me go ahead and take this guy here. Let me even do something, what can I do with this? See if I can make that transparent. That way it'll still sort of show up, but it's kind of see-through. I can take a wall like this, and in the same sense, edit its profile. That's kind of just the same thing we did with the level house. Maybe I'll shift it over to the right so I can get a nice kind of even view of the whole thing. Okay. And what that step foundation would look like is something like this. Again, following however many discrete steps as you need. Now, again, we only need a single loop. So what I need to do is do some trimming. And then I'll get rid of that piece over there. It's complaining a little bit. It doesn't like it when I do that, but honestly, that's one of the best ways to do a step foundation. And if you have the steps coming down like that, then from a foundation standpoint, what you can do is use the wall foundation. Now let's think about the type of the foundation, going back to our plan view. What did he say it was going to be? Kind of like 16 inches wide or 12 inches wide, depending on which wall we're looking at. And 6 inches tall. So what I can do is, in the same sense here, make it a bearing footing that's 12 inches by 6 inches. Again, just a name. It's going to be 12 inches wide and 6 inches thick. And with that selected, now we can go through and just choose a wall. Now, clearly I did something wrong there. Let's kind of take a look at the type. 12 feet. I'll make it 12 inches. And voila, that's how you're going to go ahead and model that step foundation. Does that part feel pretty good? Let's stop there for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. If you can handle that, that's the hard part. Let's just go ahead and give a couple more pieces to handle those interior columns. You'll notice that in the center of the foundation, there's these like 8 foot by 12 inch, or 8 inch by 12 inch concrete columns. To handle those, what we'll do is come on into the center of the foundation, and we'll actually choose column, structural column. Let's see what we got available. I'm only looking at some wide flange steel columns, and what I need is some concrete columns that are going to be 8 by 12. So we're going to load them. We can actually find them in the library. And they're under structural columns. Look at a nice rectangular column. Oh, we need 8 by 12. I have 12 by 18. So what are we going to do? We'll dupe it like we usually do. 8 inch by 12 inch foundation columns. Like posts more than anything. 0 foot 8 by 1 foot 0. Okay, now I'm going to go through and place these things right at the grid lines. Okay, and you'll notice it sort of rotated the wrong way right there. If you tab, or just do spacebar, we can rotate them around. But go ahead and place one right there. Actually, I should fix that one before I go much further. As we're placing the columns, let me go ahead and place another one instead. There's a choice too here whether they go up or whether they go down. If I was going to be doing typical columns, columns on the first floor supporting the second floor, what I'd probably do is height and go up to level 2. But since I'm actually placing posts that are going down into the ground, or into the foundation, I'm going to switch to depth. And I'll just bring them down 9 feet right now, the default choice. This is one where it was a little bit of work in figuring out how deep each of them should go relative to the topography. So I'll place some of those. Let's look at that in 3D, just sort of see how we're doing. Not too bad. Now, these are actually much deeper than they should be. If I look at his detail, we're looking at maybe 2 feet or 3 feet or something like that. He's trying to keep them he's not over-excavating, because he doesn't have a full foundation under there. He just has a little bit of a crawl space. Maybe I'll choose all those and just make them minus 3 feet instead. Okay. But once you go ahead and you have those little posts, the issue of putting the footing under them is actually quite easy. It's like that 6 inches by 6 or 16 by 16 with 6 inches deep. So very much like we did for the level house just a while ago. And we have to load them in. I didn't load them into this project. We had them over in level. I'll go to structural, foundations, little footing rectangular. And then finally we'll create a type to match, which will be 16 by 16 by 6 inches. So let's do 1'4" by 1'4", 0'6" to create our little standard post base. Now, in terms of where we're going to put them, we actually sort of put the height. So level 1 minus 3, if that's the height. Then you need to adjust those so the height individually sort of matches where they need to be, if they were following the slope on down. Actually, let me do it in the floor plan view. I think it may be a little bit easier to do in that view. I'll say, because in the floor plan view, I can actually do this thing where it says add columns. So I could place them just by sort of getting that grid intersection. Or if I use the at columns tool, it's just sort of a speedier method. I can just sort of choose that column, and that column. And just say finish and put a bunch of them in there. Oh, that's interesting. It's actually did a smarter thing there. Since I did the at column method, here I had to sort of be very explicit about saying minus 3. If I switch to that at column method, it actually would do a better job of placing them wherever those columns would end up. So for example, on this column, if this was only minus 1 feet, notice it's going to go ahead and move them in there. And that's actually pretty slick, because then as you go through and change the height of the post to match the or to match the topography as needed, it'll always make sure that that footing stays attached to the column. And I like that. That's actually a much better way. Okay, final little thing on this one, just if you really want to complete the detail. There is a little beam in here. It looks like it's maybe 8 by 6 or something like that. A little concrete beam. It sort of spans between left and right, or in the kind of longer dimension, the 10-foot dimension. And to finish that one up, we'll say beam. Again, we only have some steel ones loaded by default. So I'm going to load a family. I will go to structural. Framing. Concrete. Get a nice little rectangular concrete beam. This is, again, an odd size, 16 by 32, not what we need. I need something that's more like,
16 by 32, not what we need. 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 16 by 32, not what we
go like 6 inches by 8 inches. The B is the height. That's going to be the 6 inches. Oh, that's the base, excuse me. Make that the 8 inches wide. Again, these dimensions may not be right. Whoever's modeling this house, kind of check the details very closely. So I've got a size available. Now for putting these in here, I can do it in 2D, but I'm just going to do it in 3D. Since it's kind of nice and easy to do. And I'll grab the top of that one. I'll grab the top of that one to the top of this one. And this will even work. I can grab the top of the post and go over the wall. Okay, and there you have it, a very kind of cheap and dirty but expedient approximation of the McCallman foundation system. So none of the height, oh, that doesn't look very good. None of the heights are right, but the basic methodology is there. So you can start adding things to that. Okay, let's go ahead and stop there because I know we're out of time and sort of catch any questions people might have.
How long would it take you to get it up on the, can it just go straight onto the Dropbox, or do you need to do something to it?
I need to kind of take that, I need to kind of like reprocess it a little bit. Let's say it should be there in about, let's say 2 hours time at the outside.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Okay, so hopefully that'll get you going. Our pleasure.
So, Glenn, can they email you? With
yes, they can. Please do.
Okay. Yep, that's great.
And we'll be there in 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to meet you all in person.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you go home and have yourself a nice evening, and I'll do a little post-processing.